Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming today. I know it was short notice under which we had this second in our series of India-Australia relationships. It's been a wonderful conclave that we've had. It's been a wonderful panel discussion that we've had. We've got some great insights from the community and from some of the panelists and speakers, including Premier Chris Minns, airport economist Tim Harcourt, and Simon Taffel, the cricket legend, cricket umpire award-winning from Bowral, who's now moved to the Central Coast. We also got inputs from young Warren Kirby, member for Riverston, who travelled to India and spent a month there and learned a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to start by acknowledging the original owners of the land that we stand on here today and pay my respects to all their leaders, past, present, and emerging. We are very fortunate to have today with us Michael Walls, who has been kind enough to partner with us and sponsor this event today. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Michael Walls from Access News. But we've also worked together, and it's quite, you go back, it's nostalgic, but about 10 years ago, Michael connected with me, and we both started Australia-India Business Connect. Unfortunately, we didn't get the traction that we wanted from certain layers of government. We are very fortunate now that we are seeing a lot of what I call algo-mentum, which is the momentum that has been set forward by Albanese, Prime Minister Albanese, and also the Modi mania that everyone's talking about. And two beautiful democracies getting together, what better than to start working together? Ladies and gentlemen, we're also going to talk at some stage about Australia's pivot to India. That's a beautiful book written by Dr. Andrew Charlton. Dr. Andrew Charlton is also the member for Parramatta. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dr. Andrew Charlton. When your federal members and your state members all work and they align themselves together along with local government, you normally achieve positive outcomes. And I can with pride say that today, in fact, a couple of days ago, there was a press release that Michael shared with me before anyone else got hold of it, because obviously he's part of the press. And that was about $3.5 million that has been allocated towards Little India. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for that too. Thank you, Dr. Andrew Charlton, and to Lord Mayor Peter Esper, who's going to be here probably sometime today. We will also, at this stage, I want to go back and acknowledge a few people who are here today. We've got Shubha and Akshay from, Akshay is the chairman of the India Club, and Shubha is the president of the India Club. India Club is an institution that's been around for years. Ladies and gentlemen, Akshay and Shubha have spent 50 years in Australia. So they come with heaps of, they've seen how this relationship has evolved over the years. Put your hands together for India Club. We've also got from Indo-Australian Sanatan Society, we've got the wonderful Yogesh Khattar. Yogesh, please stand up and turn around if you can. Yogesh is a wonderful, he's a small businessman. He's got heaps of ideas. He's very passionate about India-Australia relationships. But one thing that binds us together is he sees a lot of, or he's very passionate about the Indian culture. And he wants to promote that and keep that alive with the generations that are born here, people of Indian origin, that are born here in Australia. So ladies and gentlemen, he's working with us. And obviously I am the president of the Community Foundation of Northwestern Sydney. I don many hats, and I don't want to talk about myself today. But over the decades, I have seen lots of things. I've seen people come, governments come and go. I've seen various things happen in terms of events, but never has it been a wonderful time to actually start celebrating and taking the India-Australia relationships to the next level. Ladies and gentlemen, we've also got Samir Pandey, who is the former mayor. Samir, please stand up. He's a member of the community, a very hard-working politician. And even though we don't connect so much, we follow each other on social media. And I have nothing but praise for him for all the hard work that he's put over the years. Samir, we wish you well in future endeavors, and we hope you rise to great heights. Ladies and gentlemen, we've also got our dear friend, and he's not just a friend of mine, he's also a friend of most of you around here today. I know some of you may raise eyebrows because he probably comes from a different lineage. But ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mayor Peter Ganjemi. Dr. Peter Ganjemi is the mayor of the Hillshire. A very passionate mayor. He's energetic, he's young, he's got heaps of experience. He does look young, but he's been a councillor for over how many years?
12 years.
12 years now. And we've really seen personally, I've seen him evolve as a wonderful leader and an exponent that needs to be admired for the time that he devotes not just to Indian functions, but to all the other functions. So ladies and gentlemen, that's apart from that, we've got some wonderful community leaders and some beautiful people here today. We've got Zarir Bamji from the Parsi community. Zarir, would you like to stand up, please? These are all serious people who've played a role, but they're also unsung heroes of sorts. In our eyes, they're heroes, and that's why they're here today. Ladies and gentlemen, we've also got the lovely Carmen Ladazari. Carmen, can you please stand up? She's from the Baha'i community. And if some of you don't know the Baha'i community, there's about 0.7% of Baha'is in India. And when you multiply that by 1.4 billion, that's a tall order. But not just that, there are 30,000, Dr. Charlton, there are 30,000 Baha'is in Australia. I've been fortunate to attend a lot of her events. They're very passionate, they're very giving, they're very peaceful and loving. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got filmmakers here, we've got people who've got instructors, schools, we've got the lovely Sukhwinder from Virata, the real estate agency. We've also got from CAWS. CAWS is C-A-W-S, the Chamber Alliance of Western Sydney. We've got the wonderful Sean Condon, who again I've known for years. He sits on the board. And just for those of you who don't know, the Chamber of, what's it called? The
Chamber Alliance of Western Sydney.
The Chamber Alliance of Western Sydney advocates on the basis of all those chambers around in Western Sydney. So it's a core group, it's a powerhouse, and Sean is one of those people you should be talking to if you have any ideas or you'd like to do any form of networking in this space. What a wonderful, I will start now by asking Dr. Akshay Kumar, the chairman of the India Club, to say a few words.
Thanks, Sanjhe. Good afternoon, all. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Andrew Charlton and all participants to this special session of India Club's second chat, organized in partnership with Community Foundation of Australia, North West Sydney, and Indo-Australia Sanatan Society, kindly sponsored by Michael Walls, editor and publisher, Access News, Australia. We express our gratitude for his support. Over the last 3 decades, being at forefront of several organizations, we have successfully organized many iconic community events. We have been trendsetters, deriving contentment in our projects, serving the society for betterment of all. Australia is a land of opportunity for all inhabitants. Many from India have chosen and settled in Australia, well integrated, comprising of 4.4% of the total Australian population. India, the largest peaceful democracy in the world, has just forged ahead for the third time with an ultra-dynamic, progressive and development-oriented Modi government. Our two countries enjoy a lot in common, be it trade or resolution of strategic issues facing the world, of which incidentally, at present, there happens to be no shortage. Fostering this spirit, today's session on India-Australia relationships with Honorable Dr. Andrew Charlton, Federal MP for Parramatta, features his recent publication, Pivot to India. And not only that, but also an insight into his keen interest in understanding and advancing Indian-Australian aspirations is of distinctive significance. I hope you enjoyed this naked chat. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd now like to request Shubha Kumar, the president of the India Club, to say a few words.
Thank you, Rajiv. Dear Dr. Andrew Charlton, Michael Bowles, and all participants, your presence has generated an empowering buzz in this room. Elated by this buzz, I would like to share a glimpse of India Club with you all. Akshay and myself came to Sydney with our two young kids 50 years ago. It was a big cultural challenge. And initially we had our struggles. By God's grace, giving back to and serving the community became our passion. And out of this passion, India Club was born. India Club plays very important role by sharing its vibrant Indian heritage with Australian and multicultural community, enhancing goodwill and harmony all around. We have been always forward-thinking and innovative. We have just undertaken another initiative by launching the India-Australia Relationships series, inaugurated by the Premier Chris Minns in the New South Wales Parliament and much appreciated by the community. We enjoy solid support of two strong organizations led by steadfast leaders, Rajiv Chaudhary of Community Foundation of Northwestern Sydney and Yogesh Khattar of Indo-Australia Sanatan Society. The community would love to see trustworthy, dedicated stalwarts like Rajiv and Yogesh ji. In their presence in Parliament, New South Wales of Federal, forging ahead with passion to make Australia great. Dr. Charlton, we greatly appreciate and congratulate you for the grant to the Little India project. Parramatta is very lucky to have a visionary MP like yourself. We also have a dream to create an India Center with dominant cultural flair for the communities, elderly and children, filled with innovative space for kids, a socializing place for elderly, also a mentoring place addressing social issues and a funful place for all communities. Dr. Charlton, we would love to seek your guidance to advance this cherished community project in the greater Western Sydney to create another unique tourist attraction in Sydney.
Absolutely. It's a terrific goal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shubha, and thank you, Akshay, for those wonderful words. I might like to just let you all know that we'd also like to acknowledge the lovely Harinder from Sanjhe Vichar. Harinder, can you stand up, please? He is beaming this session live, and he's beamed all of our previous sessions live to all the channels, Dr. Charlton, around regional India and mainstream channels in India. So they pick up some of his grab and he provides it to them. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Next, I'd like to call on stage my dear friend, Yogesh Khattar. He's the president of the India-Australia Sanatan Society, and he's going to say a few words.
Ladies and gentlemen, and my dear friend Andrew Charlton, let us begin with a prayer for a world free from violence and offer our heartfelt condolences to the victims of tragic attack in Jammu and Kashmir. So let us chant a Gayatri Mantra for peace. Om Bhur-Bhuva Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So, thank you for joining us today. It's a privilege to stand before you as the president of Indo-Australia Sanatan Society and share our mission, achievements, and vision for the future. I'm also honored to serve as the vice president of the Lions Club and the president of Arya Samaj, working alongside the India Club and the Community Foundation of Northwestern Sydney. Together we form a vibrant and united front dedicated to uplifting our community. Ours, the Indo-Australia Sanatan Society, was founded with a clear and compelling vision to support new migrants, international students and seniors in our community. Moving to a new country, especially one as diverse and dynamic as Australia, can be both an exhilarating and daunting experience. Our organization strives to ease this transition and ensure that everyone, regardless of their background, feels welcome, supported, and integrated into the community. Our commitment to seniors in our community is equally unwavering. We recognize the invaluable contributions they have made throughout their lives and believe it is our duty to ensure they live with dignity, respect, and joy. Through social gatherings, health and wellness programs, and volunteer opportunities, we strive to create a sense of belonging and purpose for our senior members. Our partnership with the India Club and the Community Foundation of Northwestern Sydney further amplify our impact. The Indo-Australia Sanatan Society not only aims to support individuals, but also to strengthen the bonds between India and Australia. The relationship between our two nations is built on shared values of democracy, multiculturalism, and a commitment to prosperity. through cultural exchange programs, educational initiatives, and business collaborations. We strive to enhance mutual understanding and respect between our communities. By celebrating festivals, hosting joint events, and promote bilateral dialogue, we contribute to the vibrant tapestry of multicultural Australia and deepen the ties that unite our nations. A unique aspect of our work is the integration of traditional practices such as yajna, which is called Agnihotra, an ancient Vedic ritual, which is more than a spiritual practice. It is also deeply connected to environmental sustainability. The positive effect of Agnihotra on the environment, including the purification of air and promotion of ecological balance, are well documented. At the heart of everything we do lies our slogan, Seva, Sacrifice, and Love. These three principles guide our action and define our purpose. Together we are stronger. Our combined efforts ensure that our community is inclusive, vibrant, and resilient. In closing, let us remember that our strength lies in our unity, our diversity, and our shared commitment to a better future. Together, we can create a community where everyone feels valued, respected, and empowered. Thank you. Sabko namaste. Jai Shri Ram.
Thank you for that introduction, and thank you for the little prayer. We all need a little prayers. Talking of prayers, I'm extremely sorry, but Michael Waltz had to leave because his wife is struggling with pancreatic cancer, and she took a little bit of a turn, so he had to rush back. But the show will go on. We'll still do what we're doing. But ladies and gentlemen, keep his wife in your prayers. Now, India-Australia relationships, I mean, enough has been spoken about these, and I think from time to time we keep talking about this. But let's today get a different perspective. Let's get Dr. Andrew Charlton to say a few words. Dr. Charlton.
Well, thank you so much, Rajiv. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you and amongst a group of such nice friends and people with such an interesting reflection on the Australia-India relationship. I want to thank the India Club for hosting the event. I want to acknowledge my very good friend Samir Pandey, someone who has contributed an enormous amount to this city, and I'll make you this forecast. Samir will contribute more to this city in the future, I think, than anybody else in politics. You can hold me to that one. I want to thank Michael. Apologies that he had to leave, but we're so grateful for him for hosting the event. My wonderful friend Yogesh, who has been with me through many things, thick and thin. I appreciate your friendship and your support. Shubha and Akshaya, thank you so much for having me here, for your kind words, and for the legacy that you have created in building this institution, the India Club, supporting the Indian diaspora in Australia and strengthening the ties between Australia and India. It is a wonderful legacy. Peter, thank you for being here on such an important day in politics, the day of the redistribution. Thank you for giving me a little update on how my seat has changed. It's terrific, and I know how important the India Club is in your community as well. Friends, I thought I'd have a bit of fun with you today. I've launched this book in many places, in Sydney, in Melbourne, in Canberra, in Delhi, and it's had a wonderful reception. And the one question that everybody asks me when I launch the book is they say, "Why did you write it? What was the motivation for you to write it? What were you hoping to achieve?" when you wrote this book about Australia and India? And my answer is always very simple. I wrote this book because I genuinely believe that not enough people in Australia understand modern India. There is far too low an understanding of what India is today. And secondly, not enough people understand the role that India will play in shaping Australia's future and the future of our region. And so for me, this book was an attempt, in part an attempt to educate myself, and in part an attempt to add information to the world and help promote awareness of what modern India is and how it will shape the future of Australia. And when I say this to my friends, they sort of scoff at me as if, oh, sure, lots of people don't understand India, but we do, we understand it. And so I put together this little game that I play with some of my friends. In Australia, we have this wonderful tradition of pub trivia. You know what I'm talking about? Pub trivia. Everybody goes down to the pub and there's somebody there that asks a series of questions and everybody tries to write down the answer. And the person who gets the most questions right is the winner. Great Australian tradition on a Tuesday or a Wednesday night down at your local pub. And so to prove to my friends that actually, to test their understanding of India, I put together a little pub trivia Australia-India set of questions. And there are 15 questions and they get about 5 right. On average, about 5 right. So, this is a pretty good audience, I reckon. So I might put you to the test. I might put you to the pub trivia test. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Yep. I think some of these are going to be quite easy for you. In fact, many of them are quite easy for you. But let's see how we go. So, which country is the largest country in the world now by population? And what year did it become the largest in the world by population? India. 2023. Good, we're off to a great start. Question number 2. In all of Australia's cricketers, and I'm talking about everybody from our professional cricketers right down to our grade cricketers to the boys and girls who play on the local fields on a Saturday, all those registered cricketers in the Australian cricket database, if you get all of their names, you look at all of their names and you rank them from the most common name to the least common name, what's at the top of that list? What's the most common name of an Australian cricketer in the Cricket Australia database? Anyone have a crack at this? No, the most common name.
Surname, you mean?
Surname. The most common surname. What's the most common surname? Smith. That's number 2. More. Singh, correct. Well done. Good audience. Very intelligent group of people in this room. I love it. Okay, here's a question. Of all of the Australian government ministers, Australian government ministers travel overseas, they go and visit their counterparts around the world. So Australian government ministers last year, 2023, they went to lots of different countries. Which country received the most Australian ministers last year? A total of 14 ministerial visits. Which country received the most? India. Very good. Okay, there's a part B to that question. Australia receives ministers from other countries around the world. We had on Monday we have the Chinese Premier visiting Australia. We had the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea visit Australia a few months ago. Which country did Australia receive the most ministerial visits from last year?
India.
India! Well, you're doing very well. I think this is 4 from 4. I'm very impressed. I think it helps that the answer's always the same. Okay, question number 5. One of Australia's most iconic national experiences in our history is the Anzac campaign in Gallipoli, where so many young Australians went and fought under the Australian flag, certainly in a significant way for the first time in our history. And one of the most famous battles that they fought there on the Gallipoli Peninsula was at Gurkha Bluff, where 2,000 Australians died. One of the bloodiest days in Australian history up to that point. But one country lost more lives at Gurkha Bluff than Australians.
India.
Which was that country? India. More Indians. That's such an iconic Australian event, you know, that Gallipoli landing, the Anzac campaign. Australians felt in many cases that they were there under poor planning, in a British campaign. It's a real moment of national pride and angst for us. But there was another country there as well that had more casualties in some of those battles. That was India. Okay, question number 6. For most of world modern history, that is since in the current era, since the AD current era, for most of that time, that's 2024 years time, which part of the world was the richest part of the world for most of that time? Which was the richest part of the world for most of that time?
Hyderabad and India.
India. In fact, between 500 BC and 500 AD and 1500 AD, India accounted for between 25% and 30% of global GDP. Not just the richest country in the world, but by far the richest country in the world. Greatest exiles. You could go to the court of a ruler anywhere from Europe to China to Southern Asia, and the finest goods in that court, the finest clothes, the finest ships, the finest manufactured goods, many of the systems of the financial systems, many elements of that financial system, all had come from India, which at that time was amongst the richest, was the richest country in the world. Okay, question number 7. From which country did Australia receive the most migrants over the last 10 years? Which country did Australia receive the most migrants? India. If you can pick a theme here, you're doing very well. Here's one as well. Question number 8. India has the following relationship with Japan. They have an annual meeting of prime ministers every year. The Prime Minister of India and the Prime Minister of Japan meet. They also have an annual foreign minister meeting. They also have a free trade agreement between Japan and India, and they have a security arrangement through the Quad. Now, that is a level of engagement that Japan has with India, and India only has that level of engagement with one other country in the world. Only with one other country in the world do we have an annual leaders meeting, an annual foreign ministers meeting, a free trade agreement, and a security arrangement. Okay, question number 9. Amongst the Australian population, which subgroup of our population has the highest educational attainment? That is, the proportion of that part of the population who has a bachelor's degree or higher. Which subgroup is that?
Indian.
It's the Indian subgroup. Nearly twice as likely to have a higher degree than the rest of Australians. The average Australians with higher degrees is 28%. Amongst Australians of Indian origin, it is 64%. Extraordinary difference. Here's one for those of you that have read my book. In which country in the world, after India became independent, what year was that? 47. Which month?
August.
So immediately after India became independent, its flag was raised outdoors, flew in the sunshine for the first time as an independent nation. Where? Where did that first Indian flag fly in independent India?
Australian Embassy? Canberra? High Commission.
Canberra. And why? Because of the time zone. We had the first celebration of independent India at the High Commission in Canberra, where the Indian flag was raised for the first time in the sunshine. India had become independent at midnight the night before, and the flag was raised for the first time at an outdoor event in the sunshine in Canberra. The first time the Indian flag flew as an independent flag.
Wow.
It was in Australia. Which nation in the world has the fastest economic growth of any major nation? That's an easy one. An iconic Australian animal, the dingo. Almost no more famous Australian animal than the dingo. Maybe the kangaroo. The dingo, very famous Australian animal. It descends from an animal from which country? India. Very good. And finally, which country in the world has the fastest growing military capability of any nation? India. Well, you've done very well at the pub quiz. If I had a prize to you, you'd all get equal first. I do that partly as a fun thing to do, but partly to stress just how important the Australia-India relationship is, and just how much of that relationship is only weakly understood by many Australians. And I say to people, and I guess that's the message of this book, that if you think about India, the largest nation in the world by population, the fastest growing economy in the world, a nation whose population is growing so quickly that not only has it just become the largest nation in the world, but because its population is so young and growing so quickly, by 2050, India's population will be larger than the population of the United States and China combined. Plus the fastest growing security and military capability in the world, you reach an inescapable conclusion. And that conclusion is that in the 21st century, India will be a dominant superpower shaping Australia's region. And I think to myself how important it is for Australia that we have that superpower who shares our values of democracy, of freedom, of rule of law, of pluralism. And that's why I say no other nation will shape Australia's future in this century more than India. And there is no other nation with whom we need to focus on building a strong partnership more than with India. And when I think about the elements of that partnership, I think principally of the role of the Indian diaspora in Australia to tell those stories. You might have won the pub quiz, but not everybody, not every Australian out there would have known the answer to all of those questions. It's so important that we raise awareness about the importance of this relationship. It's so important that we build the people-to-people ties between Australia and India, build the business relationships, particularly the small business relationships between Australia and India, and grow the friendship, which at the moment is strong, but needs to grow into a partnership that can create peace and prosperity in our region. So friends, I could talk about this book all afternoon, but I might leave it there. Very happy, if time permits, to answer any questions or engage in a discussion. We have lots of copies of the book as well there in the corner. Lorna from my office is here to sell some books to anyone who would like to buy them. But most importantly, I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. Congratulations on your win in the pub quiz. And thank you for everything that you do to build the relationship between Australia and India.
One of the reasons why I admired Dr. Andrew Charlton he's very learned. He's a scholar from Rhodes. He's got his PhD, obviously, from Oxford, is it, in England? He's a strong advocate. For some of you who want to get a better perspective about this book, and we'll go straight into a little brief of the book, and then you guys can catch up with Andrew, and if you want a copy of the book, you can have it signed by him and go and see Lorna and just let her know. She'll send you an invoice later. But there's a journalist by the name of William Dalrymple and Anita Anand. There's a podcast called The Empire. If you listen to that podcast, it will give you the true perspective of this book, Pivot to India, where Andrew has very, very subtly and very nicely, he's put together his perspective, he's compiled stuff, he's spoken about, the India-Australia relationship should not just revolve around cricket, Commonwealth, and curries. There's more to it. He's added a few D's in there. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag. He speaks of trade and investment. He speaks of strategic alliance. He speaks of working in harmony. He speaks of, let me think of a few other things that he speaks of. He speaks of you, the diaspora, the importance that you play in being ambassadors for Australia in India and being ambassadors for India in Australia. And I think what he wants to, obviously he's highlighted through that very lovely trivia set of questions, and I must admit, Dr. Charlton, I got a couple of them wrong. But more or less, I think this is the passion that he's got, this is the understanding. And something I really admire about Andrew and his team, starting with the Prime Minister, is the love and respect that they have for India. But remember that love and respect starts with you, because at the bottom level, at that level, and it's not called the bottom level, it's the level where the action happens. And if you just take a small analogy, we always talk of Australia, the small businesses are the engine room of Australia. So each one of you have small businesses. The larger businesses always leverage off trade agreements, and they've got huge amounts of infrastructure. You can introduce an Australian business to India. You can bring an Indian business to Australia. You should encourage your friends, your neighbors, to understand the nuances of India, the cultures, the customs, probably the taboos, so that they don't offer you, if you're a vegetarian or from Gujarat, they don't offer you a beef burger, or throw some sausages on the barbie and call you over. And it's going to be not the best night that you want to have. And you probably won't engage with one another. So you've got to play that role, and we hope to see more and more interaction from you, the diaspora. And just remember, each one of us, including me, Shubha, and all of you sitting in this room, are ambassadors for Australia in India and ambassadors for India in Australia. So when you say a few things, just think before what you say, think before what you do. Don't just think of what's good for you, think of what's good for that community that gives you, well, it has given me. My daughter's a doctor today. She's just got a double doctorate yesterday. She's a doctor in philosophy from UNSW. And she's done her MD, and she's working at the Royal North Shore Hospital. And how proud is she about being Australian? And I think that's how we should grow up. That's how we should get our children to grow up. That they should be proud of being Australian and also be proud of their Indian heritage. With that, we're going to go over to a little brief that I might want to say about this book. So this book offers a useful starting point for assessing how the Albanese-led government intends to advance the bilateral relationships with India. It points to some key priorities in the relationship, including what Dr. Charlton said, defense and security, and a closer economic relationship based on greater direct investment and increasing people-to-people links supported by businesses and educational institutions like yours. It offers a useful medium for focusing on the increasing strength of us, the Indian diaspora in Australia. According to the 2021 census, any ideas how many Indian-born Australians there are? Mr. Ganjemi, should I put you on the spot?
500,000.
Well, a little over that, close to 700,000, 673,352 Indian-born Australians, making it the second largest diaspora after England. So that's the rate at which we're growing. This growth is set to continue for much of the next decade. And Dr. Charlton outlined several key ways that the growing Indian diaspora in Australia can continue to support the wider bilateral relationship. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, put your hands together for this wonderful book. Now, if any of you have any questions, I'd get you to come here, and Andrew will answer from his seat. So if anyone got a question for Andrew? In the meantime, if any of you want to get a copy of the book, you can go straight to Andrew, get it signed from him, and then go back to Lorna and give her your name and details so she can later send you an invoice. Dr. Peter Ganjemi, I'm going to get you to come, put you on the spot. Come up, and before you leave, come up and tell us a little bit about your experiences with the India-Australia group.
Well, firstly, can I thank the India Club, the Indo-Australian Sanjhe Society, and the Community Foundation for Accessibility for today, and can also thank Dr. Charlton for hosting us here today in Parramatta. And congratulations on your book. I think it's been extremely well received, not just within your constituents, but also within my constituents and across Sydney and Australia as well. The relationship between Australia and India has grown significantly, and I'll speak mainly from a Hills perspective where I'm the mayor, but I'm 38 years old, and from when I was born, when I was young, my first thoughts to now, we've grown out of sight, and I think that's incredibly positive and it's a wonderful thing, and I'm excited projecting another 38 years into the future what opportunities that can bring, and I think that's exciting. I grew up in Box Hill, for instance, a suburb that was acreage with about 1,000 residents, and I wouldn't have known a single other family that would have been of Indian background, but now over 20% of our residents in Box Hill are born in India, and that's wonderful. Again, when I went to high school at Oak Hill College, there was probably, out of a grade of 400 people, there's maybe 3 people that they were either born in India or their parents were born in India, and now we have a very strong cohort of Indian families at Oak Hill College, for instance. Within the Hill Shire, more residents are now born in India than any other country in the world other than Australia. And it's not just the numbers, but it's actually your contribution. It is when rates of volunteering, the Hills is known as a very strong area for volunteering and for generosity, but some of that has dried up in recent years where we don't have as many people volunteering these days, we don't have as many people donating, but our Indian population in the Hills has stepped up to fill that gap. We have a higher proportion of community groups from India, groups such as the India Club, a lot of groups that have a lot of volunteers from our Indian community, such as the Community Foundation, North Western Sydney, Council of Indian Australians, the Harman Foundation, many other groups as well. And the political awareness and the involvement of our Indian diaspora in our community, I think is absolutely incredible. And so, to me, as the Mayor of the Hills, that makes me incredibly proud. It's also even just looking at awards. When I was growing up, none of our youth ambassadors in the Hills would have been people from our Indian community, and both of our youth ambassadors at the moment, Shivani and Krish, are of Indian background, for instance. Last year, our Citizen of the Year in the Hill Shire was Raju Chowdhury, who's right here on my left, and our highly commended Senior Citizen of the Year was Shubha Kumar, who's even closer on my left here. So that just shows how much not only I appreciate the efforts of our community, of our Indian diaspora in the Hills, but how much the broader population in the Hills appreciate your efforts and how highly you are respected as well. So, as I said, that's just a quick snapshot of what I see in the Hills, and seeing how far that's gone in the last 20, 30 years. I'm very excited for the future. But I really want to pay tribute to Shubha and Akshay Kumar, because 20 years ago when you started up the India Club, I'll go back to today for a second, we have a lot of community groups, a lot of events from our Indian community in the Hills, and so it's not as difficult for people to do that these days. But when you started the India Club up 20 years ago, no one in the Hills was doing that. So you were visionaries, you were courageous, and you've really paved the way for a lot of what we're seeing in the Hills. So I just want to thank you particularly for that. So that's really all I wanted to say. So thank you everyone for being here, and thank you Samir and Andrew for what you do in the Parramatta community, and I look forward to continuing to help out wherever I can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter. We'd like you to receive a signed copy from the India Club and from the Indo-Australia Sanathan Society from Dr. Andrew Charlton. Can someone take a photograph of this, please? Yeah, can you come around? Yeah. Can someone take a photograph of that, please? So maybe you're in the best place. I might just switch that off.
Yeah. Rajiv, you also come, please.
Sugesh, you can also come. Peter, for your unstinted support to the community. For your unstinted support to the community, once again, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for It's very easy to attend events in your own shire, but when you come out into, I wouldn't say unknown territory, because a lot of you are known and he's very welcome. That's the nature of us as people of Indian origin. Thank you for taking time. I know you've got a very busy schedule and I know you've got to head off somewhere, but thank you so much once again. Ladies and gentlemen, now anyone who wants a book, I think, Suk, you wanted, can you just come up and get it signed and then let Lorna know your name? While Lorna is receiving details, and obviously Andrew signing those books from each one of you. If you need photos, guys, please take it. If you need to come behind, Shubha can sit on one side, and you guys are more than welcome to come and sit and take a photo with Dr. Andrew Charlton as you get your book. Trust me, this is going to be a book that's going to be pretty popular. In the meantime, I'd like to call on the lovely, our dear friend Samir Pandey to come and say a few words.
Thank you.
Samir, again, thank you for coming.
Good morning, everyone. Is it afternoon? It is afternoon. For those who are not from City of Parramatta, welcome to City of Parramatta. Can I acknowledge all of you for being here, and Suvaji, India Club, Rajuji, Yogeshji, for getting all of us here. This is not my show, so I won't keep you long, but I'll say a few things in terms of we're talking about. I want to acknowledge Andrew's contribution in the last few years in Parramatta. We are very fortunate to have Andrew as federal member for Parramatta. Andrew has done enormous amount of work in the last, since he was elected. Most recently, 3.5 million towards Harris Park Little India project, and also 6.2 million towards Belmore Park, which will be in Parramatta. So I'm very pleased that we have that happening in Parramatta. Again, credit to Andrew and his commitment towards cricket in the LGA. I'll share my A, B, C, D, E of my vision for Parramatta. I'll keep it simple, so A, B, C, D, E. A, one of my goals is to advocate for the city of Parramatta. Council cannot do everything that we want to. And advocacy plays a very important role. Advocacy to state, advocacy to federal, advocacy to business, advocacy to private sector, all those are very important. So A is for advocacy. B is to build world-class infrastructure. And that's very important, central to keeping Parramatta on the globe. And if you look at what's happening in Parramatta, we have light rail construction happening, we have Powerhouse Museum happening, we have a number of key projects, including the museum, Riverside Theatre, which we are investing 188 million towards the upgrade, a number of key state-of-the-art world-class infrastructure. So that's B, building world-class infrastructure in Parramatta. C is to celebrate our arts, culture, people, heritage, history. And that's very important that we celebrate what we have, be grateful about what we have inherited. So that's C, A, B, C. D is to develop Parramatta into a global city. So we design and develop Parramatta into a global city. That's one of my goals in Parramatta. When I was the mayor, or even now as councillor, that's one of my goals. And E, engagement and collaboration. None of this will be possible without engagement and feedback and collaboration from the community. So that's my A, B, C, D, E of Parramatta. A, advocate for Parramatta. B, build world-class infrastructure in Parramatta. C is to celebrate what we have. D is to develop Parramatta into a global city. And E is engagement and collaboration. And that's what we want to do here. We want your input, we want your feedback, your ideas. We live in an ideas economy. And most recently, I have moved a council motion to establish an entrepreneur grant, for example. I want to see an entrepreneur in every street in Western Sydney. We want to provide that support system where young people, people with ideas are supported. So that's one thing. Stillwater, for example, I would like to see Stillwater as the Silicon Valley of Sydney. And that's one of the visions that I have, that we want to promote and develop Stillwater into Silicon Valley of Sydney. Number of projects, I won't take long, but this is, I'm very excited about where we are in Parramatta. I'm very excited about Andrew's vision for Parramatta, and we want to help Andrew. Don't forget, we have elections coming up very soon in the federal elections, and we will do anything to get Andrew back. Not that he needs our help, but we want to make sure that he is back next year or this year, whenever the election happens. We need good people in politics. We need people with ideas, vision in politics. And Andrew is one of those rare people. We have to make sure that he is back. So we need all your support. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you've got a copy of your signed book, please make sure you head over to Lorna on the left. Lorna, can you put your hand up, please? So just go to Lorna and give her your details. She'll email you an invoice, and you can sort it out with Lorna.
Yeah, well, not on your team, I said.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's an event going to be happening, organized by Praveen. Praveen, can you stand up? From the Bihar International Trade Organization called Vichar. You're all cordially invited to the event. If any of you would like to get in touch with Praveen, you can give him your details so he can add you onto his database. Thank you, Praveen. Thank you for doing the wonderful things you're doing.
बस बढ़िया
It's nice to see someone from HNT Legal here. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to this event.
पीपल को घुमाने के लिए लेके जाता हूँ $1 का तो मैं आप एक बस आपके यहाँ से भेज दूँगा जैसा आप अच्छा मैं तो 12 साल से कर रहा हूँ एवरी ईयर तो आपके यहाँ से करो तो आपको पब्लिसिटी भी हो जाएगा आपको हेल्प हो जाएगी बस तो मैं खुद ऑर्गेनाइज करता हूँ लोग भी ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं
सब हो जाए इतने छोटे काम के लिए इनको जरूर
वही मैं मैसेज करता हूँ कार्ड भी लाए हैं वो 5 जुलाई को इवेंट है
Angle to this side. Sure. Praveen, you'd like to say a few words?
Thank you so much.
In the meantime, any of you who want to get your book signed, please come up and get them signed.
Thank you so much. And Yogi, thank you for having me here. And apparently I heard a lot from my old friend Samir. Like we are friends since like last 14 years. And he keeps talking about you, like what great work you are doing. So now I meet you first time today in person. In the background, we're working a lot on like India-Australia thing. For example, we had our good friend Mr. Chirag Paswan, who was member of parliament at that time. Now he's food processing minister of India, cabinet minister under Modi. And he himself scored like right-hand man of Mr. Modi. And he's kind of kingmaker, as you all know, in Indian politics. So we're having an event in India on 5th of July. Mr. Modi confirmed that 2 days back. Now I talked to you regarding that, and we have very less time. Samir is most likely coming there, as we are awarding 5 prominent Indo-Australians on that day in Rashtrapati Bhavan, which is President House in India, attended by President of India, Prime Minister of India, Home Minister, Defense Minister, and Finance Minister. So whole of the Indian government will be there. And I'm co-organizing that with Mr. Chirag Paswan, who is Federal Minister in India. So now I know 5th of July will not be coming as you said, but when we are there in August, I think we should catch up there, because I want you to meet few of the key ministers in Indian government who are very keen to work with closely with Australia. So I'm not in limelight everywhere, but I work very closely with few of them in India. Thank you so much, and Samir, thank you for your support.
Thank you very much, Praveen. Last but not the least, we'd like to hand over little Andrew, whilst you've written, just for disclosure, because I know you're not allowed to There's nothing else in it. This is a lovely book written by our dear friend Simon Taufel, Finding the Gaps.
Fantastic.
And would love you to give it a read in between.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Akshay, would you like to, and Yogesh, can you go in there and get a photo all together? Please, thank you.
Mr. Rajiv, you can. Rajiv, you can have.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Dr. Charlton, normally Indian events don't start on time and they don't finish on time. We take pride on starting on time and finishing on time. If any of you would like to network or get a photo with Dr. Charlton before he leaves, I think he's here for another 5 minutes or so. And probably either here in the back or in the corridor, suit yourself and get a photo. But Dr. Charlton, we'd like to say thank you to you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for coming to this event. Thank you for what you're doing. We really admire you. And on behalf of the India Club INC, Community Foundation of Northwestern Sydney, and the Indo-Australian Sanathan Society, would love to engage with you and work with you and see how we can take those relationships to the grassroots and beyond. Thank you. Yogesh, can you get a photo of Narinder's also? Narinder, with the book. Narinder, you don't need to take the book. I've got some books signed. I'll give it to you. A gift from us. You already have it. Awesome.
I think I should
One small video. Small video. Hello, my name is Guru. I'm working as a project. So, last 30 years I've been working on India and Australia, how we can put together one page in the driving. Because most of the students that come and just graduate driving is one accident. So I keep working on that. So how I can train them over there. So in future I will for majority driving school models here, show them exactly what's going on here with the skills. I think it will help with that. So if you can come and touch with the Indian club.
make sure that when people come here,
They must know how to use the road and things. Because most of the people they are only working on English language. But I said English is not, English is important, but people that they must know how to use the road. Because my whole life I spent on driving, but that's why I just work on that. So I'll come back to you with the club, and I'm going to organize one event. With all Indian driving schools, models. So you can come and guide us what to do this. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thank you so much.